Welcome learners. Today we will begin with chapter 2, and in this chapter we'll cover sampling. This is the plan for the entire chapter. So for this video and the upcoming ones, we'll cover external validity, sampling terminology, statistical terms in sampling, probability sampling, non-probability sampling, and summary of sampling methods. So this is our plan. In this video we'll discuss about external validity. So primarily we'll cover two approaches to generalization, which is the sampling model and proximal similarity model, threats to external validity, and improving external validity. So let's begin with what is external validity. Well, external validity has to do with our ability to generalize. So how good we could generalize back to the population from where we barely conduct a research on entire population, right? So for the simple reason that it is not practically possible to cover everyone in the population. So we normally do we select a part of it and we try to we conduct our research on this part, and then whatever conclusions we arrive at, we are interested in generalizing back to the whole population, to the entire population. So that's why it's an approximate truth about generalizing back to the population. So the question of external validity is the question of generalization. So how good our study would hold for other persons in other places and times, this is the area of external validity. So let's begin with the concept of sampling. Sampling is actually about it starts with identifying the population you would like to generalize to. So population, so definitely it would have some kind of characteristics. Population could be more the people who constitute, or the components which constitutes the population are more like each other, or they could be very made up of different kind of people, or maybe a very heterogeneous kind of population. So definitely population has a characteristics. So you have to be very sure about what kind of characteristics your population has. So actually, talking in terms of process, you identify your population first. That is the first step. Then you draw a fair sample, so representative of population. So sample should have those characteristics, or it should reflect the characteristics of population, by and large the same characteristics, and it should be it should include all the kind of, it should try to address the kind of diversity if the population has. So sample has to a real representative of sample. We normally conduct our research on the sample, and the fourth one is generalizing your result back to population. So it's simple ABCD process, 1 2 3 4. Identify the population, that's the first step. Drawing a fair sample, conducting a research, and generalizing back to the population. So this is what we do normally, as we could see from this figure. This illustration says that we normally take a part of it, we draw sample, and then we conduct research, and then we generalize back our finding to the population at large. So this arrow is actually the arrow of external validity. But then there are issues. We might not know what part of the population is we ultimately want to generalize. Is it the population is so huge and we might not be interested in that universal set, or we to what extent, what part of population, let's say again, if it is up to this we want to generalize to. So this is one question. So how good is it good for a part or the whole? Next is that there could be issue with the representative sample. The sample is not the true representative because of the stringent characteristics or pretty diverse characteristics, heterogeneous population at play. So maybe it is not easy, and sometimes for practical concerns also, you may not be able to find a right kind of people or who should be reflecting the key characteristics of the population you wish to generalize. Third is, it is simply impossible to sample across all times that you might like to generalize, such as next year or so. So these are the issues. So is there any alternative to sampling? We have one which is called proximal similarity model. So one is, we already discussed sampling model, the other one is proximal similarity model. Here we talk about context. So maybe how would we talk about primarily the gradients of similarity. What is gradients of similarity when we talk about? Let's say there are two colleges, college 1A and college B, and both has a criteria of, let's say there is a national level agency which is conducting a test for giving taking admissions to do both of the college. Let's say the scores, let's say 350 is the score for college A and let's say 340 is the score for college B. So if we wish to conduct anything on college, on this college, or on the students of this college, or on the students of a college, we could fairly generalize the findings to the other college also. Why? Because the kind of students these colleges are admitting are more or less similar. So there is a gradient of similarity. So similarity could vary in terms of, let's say, place, time, or people. So there could be threats to external validity. Three ways we could also go wrong. That is, we might be wrong in making a generalization because of the specific kind of people we chose in our study, or maybe the places or the times. So maybe you conduct a research, let's say during a non-routine time, let's say a time of war, or let's say a time of pandemic. You could not generalize back to the normal days, right? For the simple reason that these things happen once in a while. So there is, that is something which is, so your critics might say, because of the times are so different from the normal time, you could not generalize back your study to routine. Similar goes true with places and people. Maybe you have chosen a particular college with very high IQ students and all kinds of facilities at place, and then you might to generalize back that how people or students in general are thinking. So there could be a threat. So critics could come that way. So how to improve your external validity? First, these are some of the criterias which you would like to include. First one, selection. When you are trying to select, use random way of selection. So there are two approaches in sampling. We normally call random sampling and non-random sampling. So if your procedure is random, then biasness on the part of researcher is minimized. So keep your selection random. So that is one thing. Second is, keep your dropout rates low, which means if people will keep coming and going away from your study during the time which you are studying on your respondents are coming and going, so you cannot generalize how valid would be your conclusions your propositions would not be that valid. So then there would be issues with external validity. So you have to keep your dropout rate low. So respondents should continue throughout your study. Then you could also use a theory of proximal similarity by you should try to describe the ways that how your context differs from others, or you should have some data at place so as to illustrate the degree of similarity between various group of people, places and event times. And last but not the least, you should be able to replicate your study. The more you will able to replicate your study in different places or time, it improves upon its ability to generalize. Your ability to generalize will become stronger. Should you replicate your study, let's say in 1 industry, in 2 industry, 5 industries, 7 industries, you could largely by comparing some kind of context or proximal similarity, you could replicate and you could build some kind of exercise that way. So this improves upon your external validity. So this is all in this video. Thank you very much and keep watching.